Human history is filled with all the incredible things we've accomplished. However, many times these great feats could not be achieved without working together. In other words, we would never enter our modern times without leadership. In this room, there are 6 artworks of leaders I would like to share and their stories. In 1864-65, a deaf artist from Winchester named Edward C. Bruce claimed to have captured what Robert E. Lee, a Civil War commander, truly looked like. The importance of capturing Robert E. Lee has to do with his reputation during the Civil War. When the Civil War started, Virginia was attacked by many Southern folks, or Virginia was attacked and many Southern folks acted in defense. One of these men was a 50-year-old man named Robert E. Lee. He took command of the Northern Virginia Army and led them into battles where he and his Confederates were always outnumbered. But Lee never cared and always won. In the end, he surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant in a series of battles called the Siege of Petersburg. Afterwards, Lee became president of Washington College in Lexington, where he supported the end of slavery and grew to be a powerful Southern figure. Next, the year was 1954, and an English painter named Graham Sutherland was commissioned by the House of Commons and the House of Lords to paint a full portrait of Winston Churchill, who was the Conservative Prime Minister at the time. On Churchill's 80th birthday, the piece was finished and presented to him. He looked at the piece and scowled at it. He hated the rendition and said it was incredibly unflattering. It was only a few months later that Lady Spencer Churchill, his wife, had the painting burned. Winston Churchill was a man thick in personality, and his skills made it known. He was an orator, statesman, writer. He created over 100 iconic lines, such as, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." And, "History will be kind to me, for I intend to write it." Now, in the 1st century AD, an unnamed artist worked for days on the first Roman emperor, Caesar Augustus. Augustus was given the name Gaius Octavius at birth, but when his great uncle was assassinated, he was given the Octavius received his uncle's name, and his estate, and legions, which he used to gain even more power. Augustus took part in many power struggles, sometimes even with his former colleagues. However, Augustus rose in power steadily and became the ruler of Rome, which was a lawless territory due to years of civil wars. It was at this time that Augustus created the Pax Romana, translated as Roman peace, which was an era of peace and prosperity that influenced around 20 other states and lasted for 200 years. In his old age, Caesar continued to rule, and rumors spread that he would soon become corrupted by all the power. So the senators and politicians who helped Caesar shape Roman government decided to stab him to death during a meeting of the Senate. Now, hundreds of years later, thousands, around 1516 actually, 2 Roman sculptors named Orsino Benintendi and Andrea del Verrocchio were commissioned to create a bust of Lorenzo de' Medici. They made the artwork out of terracotta, and because of a cleaning that took place in 2006, we can now see the painted reds and flesh tones. You can see the stern expression on Lorenzo's face too, showing the strict control he had over Florence. It should also be noted that his hat and clothing are in no way extravagant. In fact, his clothing is rather common to represent Lorenzo's belief that he was one of the people, and not a figure that should be idolized. He was also known for his phrase, "Too much knowing is misery." Over here, in 1801, an incredible painter named Jacques-Louis David was commissioned by the King of Spain to create a series of portraits of Napoleon Bonaparte. This painting has become the most referenced when depicting Napoleon, and it's clear to see why. His attentive eyes glare at the viewer as he points towards heaven, which is not only above, but forward. And with his other hand, he controls the horse that will take him there. Now, Napoleon isn't alone in this rendition. There are troops behind him who are marching through the pass to launch a surprise attack on opposing Austrian armies. Napoleon won more than this battle by reforming French operations and molding their military into what some might call the greatest military power in Europe at the time. He arrived in a time when France was bloodthirsty and leaderless, as they had experienced the rush of revolution less than 5 years before Napoleon took charge. This one is one of 3 paintings of George Washington crossing the Delaware by a German-American artist named Emanuel Lütz. In 1851, this rendition is often praised for its fantastic use of contrast. The sky behind Washington is completely white in areas, while the strategic leader wears a black hat and coat in front. Further in the background, you can see 2,400 men who are following him across the Delaware to attack Hessian troops who would be found celebrating Christmas and completely unprepared. The ice in the water shows the frigid temperatures and terrifying winds that the Continental Army had to face before the true battle began. But with this battle won, Washington moved America even closer to the independence we celebrate today. Now, I hope you enjoyed this journey through these paintings and the heroes they depict. And I hope you learned a little about why the world will always favor her leaders.